Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, Herculean Hearts. I'm Sarah, homeschool mama of 6, and my video is a little different today. I've been on my heart a lot lately that I need to share some different stories from my life, which I'm typically a pretty private person, and so I'm not very comfortable sharing a lot of stories and then posting them for the world to see. So this will be a new thing. I'm hoping that this video will help some people maybe realize that you're not alone and by yourself in your journey, and that other people are there and that can totally relate and understand what you're going through and how you're feeling and other emotions and things like that. So for this particular video, because it's April, which is Autism Awareness Month, I am sharing the story of my son who was diagnosed with autism. So my oldest two kiddos, they are 14 months apart. My oldest having those speech delays, when number 2 was in the same boat of not speaking, I just thought it was kind of the same thing. Like, he's probably just late and one day he's just gonna start talking. So I wasn't that worried. Well, my husband and I went on a trip for a wedding, and my sister came in from out of state to watch my 3 kids while I was gone. And when I came back, she was like, you know, there's just something kind of different about Josh, so maybe, you know, have you noticed anything? And it's like, I mean, he seems fine, he's got his little quirks, but he's 2.5, 3, you know, like I thought he was just a toddler and didn't think much about it. And we moved and started going to a different church, and the first Sunday his teacher approached me afterward and said that she thought that he had some kind of special needs, and asked what they were. And I was like, he doesn't have any special needs. And she's like, yeah, he does, and I need to know what they are, that way I can best help him. And I'm like, I just met you. Who are you to tell me that my son that I've known for 3 years has special needs? Like, I didn't understand who she thought she was telling me that my kid has special needs. And then just a couple days later, another friend was mentioning, you know, you can get him checked out for free at the school because he's not talking. He can get free speech therapy at the school. You might just want to try that and see what they say. So I was like, oh, okay, fine. Since 3 people in less than 3 weeks have talked to me about this and it's free through the school district, then I'll go ahead and just see if there are some speech delays. Since that seems to run in our family with our other son, I'll go ahead and try it. So I made the appointment and took him to the school to be evaluated. And there's all this paperwork that you fill out, and then they have him come in and we start talking and going over everything. And then they were like, well, we need a few minutes to go over this initial evaluation. Then a few minutes later, they sat down and they said, well, he definitely has a speech delay. And I'm like, okay, you know, like, yeah, I could have told you that. And so they were telling me that he would qualify for services. But then they said, based off of what we saw today, we have a suspicion that he may have autism and would like to do some further testing. And so they needed my permission for that. And that, honestly, that just hit me like a semi-truck. I was like, what, autism? Like, I don't even know a lot about autism, and now you're telling me my son might have it? And what does that mean, that we're suspicious of it? Like, is it this crazy, scary thing that we need to be suspicious of? And so I was just kind of confused, but just thought, okay, well, what's our next step? Let's do this other testing so we can find out. And so it took a couple weeks before we were able to do the full evaluation, and I had to fill out more paperwork and answer all these questions like, does your kid look at spinning things like fans? I'm like, well, yeah, he'll just stare at that. Don't most kids? You know, and it would ask if he had any tendencies to have his toys in a certain way. And so I was like, well, yeah, he loved those little like Matchbox cars, and he would put them in a line, bumper to bumper, and then he would turn them and do them sideways and then turn them back, and just do that over and over. But if anybody touched his cars, it was like the end of the world. And he would melt down so bad, so fast. And I didn't really understand at the time. I thought he was just a toddler having a tantrum. That was just a really, really bad tantrum, and I didn't understand what was going on. So he would just ignore people, which I didn't think was a big deal at the time. I just thought he was shy. And some other little things like that I'm just writing down. Like, I thought that was normal for toddlers. So we went back into the full evaluation, and as we were there and just seeing how he was interacting with the therapist, the school therapist, whoever was there, the psychiatrist, and everything, that's when I first started to see this is not normal behavior. But sitting in that full evaluation is when it hit me. There's something different about him that isn't being manifest in my other two kids. So after the evaluation, they said that they were going to need to take some time to go over it, and that we would reconvene for a meeting in a couple days. So a couple days later, I went back and they sat me down, and there were 4 of them there, which I just thought was a lot, and kind of like, okay, there must be something going on if there's this many people sitting here talking to me, instead of just, one person. So they sat me down and they said, after going over the results from the evaluation and all the paperwork and everything, your son has autism. You're trying to process what that means. And I honestly didn't have a lot of emotion at that time, because I don't feel like I really understood what was being said. And they hand me all this paperwork and were telling me the names and numbers of all these different groups that I wanted to go ahead and get on their waiting list, and that he would be admitted to their full day, everyday program, and all these extras that we can be doing. And it was very overwhelming, because I'm still trying to understand what it means that I have a son with autism, and what my next step was supposed to be. Like, okay, now that he has this, well then what do we do? So I went home, and I remember just sitting in my bedroom, and that's when the wave of emotions hit. And I don't think that I've ever had so many emotions go through in such rapid succession. I was scared because I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know if I could be a mom to a child with autism. I was sad. I was heartbroken for my son, because I wasn't sure what this meant for his life. This is something, it's not like it's something that is like strep throat where you'll just get over it in a couple days. Autism is something that he's gonna have for the rest of his life. And I wasn't sure what that meant, and would he ever be able to have his own home? Would he ever be able to work? Would he ever find somebody to get married to? So my heart just hurt for him and the kind of life that he's going to have. I wasn't sure what that was going to look like. I wasn't sure how to handle that. When you're pregnant with these sweet babies, you have all these dreams of what they're going to do and what they're going to be and the relationship you're going to have with them. And in a meeting, that all changes. When you find out that your child has some kind of special need, it really is life-changing, and it's really hard. But at the same time, while I was having these feelings of, I'm not going to be able to do this, how can I handle this, what is his life going to be like, I was also so grateful that we finally had a name, and I understood more why he was doing what he was doing. And because we had a name for it, well, then we could do something about it. It's not just like, well, he just throws these crazy fits about cars. Well, it's not just because he's spoiled or something. There's actual things going on in his mind, that his brain works differently, and he understands things in a different way, and he had different triggers that I had to learn. Like, going to a grocery store was awful, and it wasn't the store itself, it was the checkout lane. And so I don't know if it was something going from so big to so small all of a sudden, or hearing the beep going over and over. I mean, it could be any of those things. That before we knew that he had autism, I would get so frustrated at the grocery store that my child was melting down, and I was embarrassed, because you know, all those other parents are looking at you like, what kind of mom are you, letting your child act like that in public? How dare you? You are the worst mom ever. And so I would feel like I was getting these looks and feeling very judged, and doubting myself as a mother because I couldn't control my child. And then we get this diagnosis of he has autism, and it's like, oh, it doesn't mean I'm a crappy mother. There would be other things like leaving, like going out. I needed to get out of the house, but at the same time I hated getting out of the house because I never knew how he was going to react. We might even be someplace fun like a park, and after about 15 minutes he would just be done playing, so he would bolt. And I had a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old still, and then I'm like, well, I can't, what do I do? I can't just leave the 4 and 1-year-old at the park while I go chase him, but I can't just let him go. And so it was so stressful even going someplace for them to play, because I just never knew what he was going to act like. And that was hard. That was really, really hard. We started different therapies. We've done speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapies. So we were doing public school, where he was getting a lot of extra help there as well. And now we homeschool, which I'll do a separate video and series if y'all are interested in how we homeschool with special needs. So if you're interested in that, please let me know below in the comments, or by liking this video, so that I can know if that is something that you guys would be interested in learning how we do that. So we've gone through many different therapies. We've had to fight insurance because insurance has tried to say that he doesn't need these therapies. So we've done that whole gambit. We still do riding therapy. We were on a wait list for 5 years to get him into a horseback riding therapy, which has been amazing. And he no longer needs speech therapy, occupational therapy, or physical therapy. He's been able to overcome so much. We still have our days. We still have our issues. Eating is one of the hardest things for us. He has so many texture issues that yeah, he has a really hard time with different foods, with new foods, with foods of different textures. So that gets super hard. And sometimes I look at people and what their kids are eating, and I'm just like, what? How are your kids eating that? And how come my kid doesn't eat like that? And I have to remember not to compare, because their kids, maybe they don't have autism. Their kids have some other something that they deal with. And it's hard. It's hard to not compare. And even kids with autism, because the spectrum is so huge, and I can't even tell you how many people will meet Josh now and say, I didn't even know he had autism. Like, well, you didn't spend very much time with him, or it just shows up in different quirks, or he's learned, and as he's gotten older it has gotten better. It's hard to say it's going to get better, because every kid is so different, and the way that their autism manifests itself is so different. For us, it's gotten better as he's gotten older. He's able to self-regulate a little better. He knows his triggers more, and so he avoids them. We carry around the noise-canceling headphones everywhere that we go. He wears those to church. He wears those to our homeschool co-op. he wears those wherever and people look at us like we're crazy, and I'm just like, who cares? Who cares? You know, I don't care anymore. I used to care. I used to care how parents would look at me and judge me as a parent. At this point, when you have a kid with special needs, I can't care anymore, because they have no idea. They have no idea what it's like, what it's really like raising a child with special needs. A lot of times they don't even realize that he has special needs, which in some ways makes it harder for them to understand why he's not doing something or acting a certain way. But he's 10 now, and he's doing so much better. He's really thriving. He still lives with his autism every day. And his autism is something that he does have, but it's not who he is. He is one of the sweetest kids you will ever meet. I call him one of my heroes because he has to overcome so much more than what I have to overcome. And the fact that he's able to overcome that, to know how to self-regulate himself, to get out of his comfort zone and try to talk to people even though it's hard for him to look at them in the eye. It's hard for him to talk to kids his own age. He much prefers either adults or young babies. And yet I still see him working on that and stepping out of his comfort zone to try new things. He teaches me so much about what true love is. He's one of the most giving people I've ever met, and I am so grateful that I get to be his mom. That first time that I heard that he had autism and I wondered what it meant for me and what kind of mom I could be to a kid with special needs, my whole perspective has changed on that because of the kind of mom I get to be, because of him and what he's taught me. We're still learning a lot. We still have our days, we have our hard days, and we have our amazing days, just like every family. If you are in a position where you've just found out, or you suspect, or you've always known that your child has autism, please know that you're not alone. If you need some kind of support group, look for one. There's a lot on social media. You can go to local schools and ask for support group information. You can comment below. I am happy to respond to you, to talk to you, to help you work out things. We can just cry together about those hard days. We can laugh together about something that they said or did. If you have a special someone in your life that has autism, go give them an extra hug if they'll let you. I know sometimes my son the touching thing is very hard. So, and that's another thing that can be hard, when you just want to hug your kid and yet they're not feeling that, and it's hard to feel connected sometimes. So I don't know if this video has been helpful in any way at all. So April being Autism Awareness Month, we would love to just spread the word about what autism is, what it isn't, how different every kid is, and to just love them. Thank you for watching. Thank you for visiting my channel. Don't forget to subscribe, and until next time.